Hello, and welcome to another episode of Movie Spoiler Alerts. Today we're going to be summarizing all of the Star Wars movies that have been released leading up to Episode 9. I will release this video in two separate formats, one in order of the year that the films were released, and the other in order of the chronological in-universe timeline. So let's get started. The film takes place 20 years after the events of Episode 3, with the Galactic Empire ruling most of the galaxy. The Rebel Alliance is at civil war with the Empire, having stolen plans for the Empire's superweapon and space station, the Death Star. Princess Leia, one of the leaders of the Rebels, has the plans with her when her ship is boarded by Imperial forces, led by Darth Vader. Leia is able to hide the plans in the droid R2-D2, and sends R2-D2 and C-3PO to the desert planet of Tatooine to meet with Obi-Wan Kenobi. Leia is then captured by Vader and taken into his custody. The droids are captured by Jawa traders, who sell the droids to Owen Lars and his nephew, Luke Skywalker. Luke inadvertently triggers a recording from Princess Leia pleading for the help of Obi-Wan Kenobi. Luke wonders if the recording is referring to Ben Kenobi, a hermit who lives nearby. The next morning, Luke discovers that R2-D2 and C-3PO have left in search for Obi-Wan, where all three meet up with Ben Kenobi. Ben reveals that he is actually Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan tells Luke of his days of being a Jedi, explaining what the Jedi are and the powers that they have through the Force. Obi-Wan tells Luke that he actually used to fight alongside his father, Anakin Skywalker, before he was betrayed and murdered by Darth Vader, a former pupil of Obi-Wan who turned to the dark side. If you watch my previous summaries, you might realize that this isn't exactly the truth. Obi-Wan gives Luke his father's lightsaber as well. They view Leia's message, begging Obi-Wan to take the Death Star plans to Alderaan and give them to her father for analysis. Obi-Wan invites Luke to join him and become a student of the Force. At first, Luke is unsure, but he discovers that stormtroopers, soldiers of the Empire, have killed his aunt and uncle in search of the droids that they had purchased. Luke and the droids go with Obi-Wan, and they travel to Mos Eisley to hire a pilot. They find a smuggler, Han Solo, and his first mate, Chewbacca, a Wookiee, and they hire them as transport to Alderaan and aboard their ship of the Millennium Falcon. In an effort to get information out of Princess Leia about the rebels and the plans that they had stolen, they threaten Leia's home planet of Alderaan. Leia does not give in, however, and they use the true power of the Death Star, which has the ability to destroy entire planets by blowing up Alderaan. So when the Millennium Falcon arrives where Alderaan should be, there's nothing but debris. The Death Star uses their tractor beam in order to pull in the Millennium Falcon. Once aboard, Obi-Wan is able to disable the tractor beam so that they're able to escape, and Luke and Han go and rescue Leia. They all make their way back to the Millennium Falcon, where they encounter Darth Vader. Vader and Obi-Wan fight, and Obi-Wan is struck down. The Millennium Falcon escapes, but little do they know the Empire installed a tracking device. The Falcon travels to Yavin 4, to the Rebels' hidden base, in order to analyze the Death Star's plans. They determined that the exhaust port that connects to the main reactor to be the Death Star's weak point. The Empire has identified Yavin 4 as the Rebels' base, and they move the Death Star into position to destroy the planet. Luke joins the Rebel assault group, but Han decides to take his payment for transport and leave. The Rebels try to attack the Death Star, trying to destroy it before it's able to destroy the Rebels' home planet. The Rebels suffer heavy losses, and Darth Vader joins into the space battle, with Luke's X-Wing right in his sights. The Death Star is nearly prepared to destroy Yavin 4, and Vader is hot on Luke's tail, and all hope seems to be lost. But at the last moment, Han returns and fires on Luke's attackers, sending Vader spiraling out of control. Luke uses some spiritual guidance from Obi-Wan, telling him to use the Force to guide his shot, and Luke is successful, destroying the Death Star, and the Rebels have won. The film concludes in a very similar way to Episode 1, with a large celebration for the Rebels' victory. This film takes place 3 years following the destruction of the Death Star. The Rebels have moved their base to the ice planet of Hoth. The Empire dispatches probe droids all throughout the galaxy hunting for the Rebels' new base, and one does actually land on Hoth. Luke, believing that the probe is a meteor, goes to investigate, and is captured by a creature called a Wampa. He is able to escape, but the bitter cold ends up putting him in a state of hypothermia. Luke has a vision of Obi-Wan telling him of the system of Dagobah, and to go there to train with Jedi Master Yoda. Luke is found in the tundra by Han Solo, who takes him back to the Rebel base to recover. Han and Chewbacca later discovered that the meteor was actually a probe droid, which had alerted the Imperial fleet at the Rebels' location. The Empire launches a massive attack, using gigantic AT-AT walkers in order to capture the Rebel base. The Rebels are overwhelmed and must flee. Han, Chewbacca, Leia, and C-3PO all leave in the Millennium Falcon, but their hyperdrive fails, so they have to hide in an asteroid field. Bounty hunters are sent out by Darth Vader, including Boba Fett, in order to track down the Millennium Falcon. They are able to avoid the bounty hunters and the Imperial fleet, and travel to Cloud City, a floating city on the planet of Bespin, where Han's old friend Lando Calrissian lives and runs. The Millennium Falcon, however, has been tracked, and the Empire has taken over Cloud City before the Falcon has even arrived. Lando leads the group into a trap, and they are captured by Darth Vader. Vader plans to use the group to lure out Luke, in order to present Luke to Vader's master, the Emperor. Vader also freezes Han Solo in carbonite, and Boba Fett takes the frozen Han to claim the bounty placed by Jabba the Hutt. Leia is also placed under the custody of the Empire. Meanwhile, Luke and R2-D2 travel to the planet of Dagobah, where Luke meets Yoda. At first, Luke believes Yoda to be a crazy old hermit, but Luke follows through with Yoda's training, learning more about the Force and the ways of the Jedi. While Luke is training, he has visions of Han and Leia being in danger, and leaves Yoda's training to help them, even though Yoda warns that he is not ready to face Vader. Luke arrives at Cloud City and falls right into Vader's trap. Luke and Vader begin to battle, and they are led into a large air shaft. Vader proves himself to be more skilled than Luke, and Vader severs Luke's hand, causing him to lose both his hand and his father's lightsaber. Vader offers to Luke to come join the dark side and the Empire, which Luke refuses, as believing Vader had killed his father. This is when Vader reveals to Luke that he did not kill his father, but that Vader in fact is actually Luke's father. Unwilling to believe this, Luke throws himself down the air shaft. While this is all going on, Lando, who is forced to help the Empire, has broken Leia and the others free. They try to stop Boba Fett from leaving with the frozen Han Solo, but they are unsuccessful. Lando and the others take the Millennium Falcon, planning to escape the planet. Leia, however, has her own premonition of Luke being in trouble, and they find him at the bottom of the air shaft. They rescue Luke and flee the planet. As the film concludes, we see Luke has been fitted with a robotic hand, while Lando and Chewbacca leave to go after the frozen Han Solo, flying off in the Millennium Falcon. The film opens with Luke Skywalker trying to rescue the frozen Han Solo from the crime lord Jabba the Hutt, along with the help of Chewbacca, Princess Leia, R2-D2, C-3PO, and Lando Calrissian. Leia infiltrates the palace disguised as a bounty hunter, presenting Chewbacca to claim the bounty on his head. Leia is able to unthaw Han, but Leia is discovered and enslaved, donning the famous slave outfit. Luke arrives to try to barter for Solo, but falls into a trap and battles a large beast known as a Rancor, which he is able to kill. Han Solo is sentenced to death by being thrown into a pit with a large monster known as a Sarlacc. Luke is able to free himself and the others, and a big battle breaks out aboard the ship. Leia is able to strangle Jabba and kill him. Boba Fett, the bounty hunter who initially delivered Solo to Jabba, is thrown into the Sarlacc pit. They all escape and return back to the Rebel Alliance. Luke returns to the swamp planet of Dagobah to find Yoda is dying. Before he dies, Yoda confirms that Darth Vader is really Anakin Skywalker, Luke's father, and also tells Luke of another Skywalker. The spirit of Obi-Wan confirms that Leia is really Luke's twin sister, and tells Luke that he must fight Darth Vader to defeat the Empire. The rebels have discovered that the Empire has been constructing a new Death Star, with Emperor Palpatine supervising the construction himself. The incomplete station is being protected by an energy shield that is being generated by the Force moon of Endor. If the rebels are able to destroy the shield generator, this will leave the new Death Star vulnerable, and they can destroy it before it's completed. So the rebels land on Endor in order to attack the shield generator. Through a series of events, the rebels befriend the moon's native population, a tribe of small furry aliens known as Ewoks. Luke reveals to Leia that he is her brother, and that Vader is their father, and Luke tells her that he must confront Vader. Luke surrenders himself to the Empire, where Vader once again tries to sway Luke to the dark side. Vader brings Luke before the Emperor aboard the Death Star in an attempt to convince him to join the dark side. The Emperor reveals that the Death Star is actually fully operational and that everything has been a trap for the Rebel fleet, planning on using the Death Star to destroy the Rebel fleet. So when the Rebel fleet arrives, they find that the shield generator is still up, and they begin to take massive casualties as the Death Star attacks. Luke and Vader battle, with the Emperor encouraging Luke to get more and more angry, trying to push him into the ways of the dark side. Vader senses that Luke has a sister, which he was previously unaware of, and Vader says that he might possibly try to sway her to the dark side. This enrages Luke, and Luke severs Vader's own robotic hand, much like Vader severed Luke's hand in the previous film. The Emperor further eggs on Luke, telling him to kill Vader and take his place. Luke refuses, declaring himself a Jedi like his father had once been. The Emperor becomes furious with this, and begins to torture Luke using Force lightning to nearly kill him. Vader then kills the Emperor, but Vader becomes mortally wounded in the process. Luke removes his father's mask, and Vader dies in his arms. Back on Endor, the Rebels and the Ewoks eventually are able to successfully destroy the shield generator. The Rebels, led by Lando, are able to attack the now exposed Death Star. Luke is able to escape the Death Star as it is falling apart, and brings his father's body with him. Back on the planet of Endor, Luke cremates Vader's body. Leia and Han kiss, and the Rebels celebrate the victory over the Empire. The film ends with the spirits of Obi-Wan, Yoda, and the redeemed Anakin Skywalker watching over the festivities. The film opens with an organization known as the Trade Federation, imposing a blockade on a planet known as Naboo due to taxation on trade routes. The Galactic Republic, the government of most of the central planets in the galaxy, dispatches 2 Jedi Knights, Master Qui-Gon Jinn and his apprentice Obi-Wan Kenobi, to investigate the matter. The short explanation of who the Jedis are is they are warriors that use weapons called lightsabers, and have special powers which they harness through something called the Force. The Jedis are viewed as the good guys throughout the films. The Trade Federation is working under the direction of Darth Sidious, a Sith Lord. The Siths are kind of the evil opposite of the Jedi, more of the dark side of the Force. The Jedi arrive to negotiate with Viceroy Gunry, the leader of the Federation. However, the Viceroy is ordered to kill the Jedi and invade the planet of Naboo with a droid army. The Jedi escape, hiding aboard one of the droid landing ships, and arrive on the planet Naboo. The Jedi meet the Gungan Jar Jar Binks, who takes them to the secret underwater Gungan city. The leader of the Gungans is unwilling to help the surface civilization of Naboo from the droid invasion, but does give the Jedi transport to the Naboo capital city. The Jedi then rescue Queen Amidala, the democratic leader of the Naboo people, and escape Naboo, though their ship is severely damaged. The damaged ship lands on the desert planet of Tatooine in order to repair its hyperdrive. Qui-Gon, Jar Jar, a droid named R2-D2, and Queen Amidala's handmaiden, Padme, all go to the city of Mos Espa to find the parts that are needed. They find a shop owned by an alien named Watto, and his slave, a 9-year-old boy named Anakin Skywalker. Anakin is a skilled engineer, having built a robot-assisted droid named C-3PO. Anakin is also a talented pod racer, a type of dangerous, high-speed racing. Qui-Gon can tell that Anakin has an extremely strong tie to the Force, and appears to be the chosen one that the Jedi prophecy foretells of, the one that should bring balance to the Force. Qui-Gon tries to use his money that they have in order to buy their parts, but Watto is not interested in their foreign currency. Through a series of events, Qui-Gon makes a bet with Watto that if Anakin wins the next big pod race, that they will get all the parts that they need, and Anakin will also be freed. Qui-Gon also tries to barter for Anakin's mother, Shmi, but is unsuccessful. Anakin wins the race, and they get the hyperdrive they need. Anakin is freed, and Anakin vows to become a Jedi one day, and will find a way to free his mother. With their ship repaired, they travel to the Galactic Republic capital of Coruscant, so Queen Amidala can plead for aid for Naboo before the Galactic Senate. Under the recommendation of Naboo Senator Palpatine, Queen Amidala issues a vote of no confidence for the current Chancellor, the leader of the Galactic Republic. While she is doing this, Qui-Gon takes Anakin before the Jedi Council to request that he be trained as a Jedi. The Council feels that he is too concerned with his emotions, and he has potential to be swayed to the dark side of the Force. Qui-Gon vows, however, to train Anakin himself. Queen Amidala is frustrated with the corruption in the Senate and cannot wait for the vote of no confidence to go through, so she returns back to the planet of Naboo with the Jedi. On Naboo, the handmaiden Padme reveals that she is actually Queen Amidala, and the actual queen has actually been involved in the film much more than the audience had initially thought. They enlist the aid of the Gungans, who now want to aid in defeating the droid army. It's a three-part attack, with the Gungans attacking the droids on land, the Naboo army attacking the Federation control ships in space, and the Jedis and Padme capturing the Viceroy. Anakin ends up getting into a starfighter and destroys one of the droid control ships, while Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan battle against Darth Maul, Darth Sidious' Sith apprentice. Darth Maul ends up killing Qui-Gon, and Obi-Wan kills Darth Maul. Obi-Wan now pledges to train Anakin in the ways of the Jedi. Viceroy Gunry is captured. Senator Palpatine is elected to the Supreme Chancellor, and a large celebration happens on Naboo now that they are free from the Trade Federation, which ends the film. The film takes place 10 years after Episode 1, with the Galactic Republic facing a new group known as the Separatist Movement, led by the Sith Lord Count Dooku. Senator Padme goes to Coruscant to vote for a plan to create an army to assist the Jedi against the Separatist movement. After avoiding an assassination attempt, Padme is put under the protection of Obi-Wan Kenobi and his apprentice, Anakin Skywalker. A second assassination attempt occurs. Obi-Wan and Anakin capture the would-be assassin. However, she is assassinated by another bounty hunter with a toxic dart. Obi-Wan takes the poisonous dart to be analyzed and identified to capture the other bounty hunter, while Anakin escorts Padme back to Naboo, where the two of them fall in love, which is forbidden by the Jedi way. Obi-Wan's investigation takes him to the planet of Kamino, where he discovers that a clone army is being produced for the Galactic Republic. However, it is unclear who commissioned or approved of their production, as it was never voted on. Obi-Wan finds the bounty hunter Jango Fett, who was used for the original for the clone army, and is also the same bounty hunter who took out the assassin that attempted to kill Padme. Jango kept one of the clones for himself, named him Boba, which he wants to raise as his own son. Obi-Wan follows Jango and Boba to the desert planet of Geonosis. Meanwhile, Anakin has visions of his mother, Shmi, being in pain, and travels with Padme to his home world to save her. When he arrives, Anakin meets his mother's new husband, Clegg Lars, as well as his stepbrother, Owen Lars. Anakin's new stepfamily informs him that his mother, Shmi, has been kidnapped by Tusken Raiders a few weeks earlier. Anakin travels into the wilderness, finds the Tusken campsite, finds his tortured and injured mother, who eventually dies from her wounds. Anakin becomes enraged and kills all the Tusken Raiders at the camp, including their children. Anakin then returns to his step-family with his mother's body and admits to Padme what he did, and says they will find a way to learn how to prevent death. Back on Geonosis, Obi-Wan discovers the Separatists and Count Dooku are behind the assassination attempts on Padme, and are now creating a massive battle droid army with the Viceroy Gunry, the leader of the Trade Federation from the first film. Obi-Wan has his findings relayed to the Jedi Council and is captured by the Separatists. Supreme Chancellor Palpatine of the Galactic Empire is voted emergency powers, which allows him to use the clone army to send them into battle against the Separatists. Anakin and Padme travel to Geonosis to rescue Obi-Wan, but are also captured. Obi-Wan, Anakin, and Padme are all sentenced to death in a gladiator or Colosseum fashion. They are rescued, however, by the Jedi Council and the clone army, and a battle breaks out between the clones and the droids. Anakin and Obi-Wan engage Count Dooku in a fight, where Obi-Wan is injured, and Anakin loses his right arm. Jedi Master Yoda, one of the oldest members of the Jedi Council, battles Dooku, but Dooku escapes. Dooku flees to Coruscant, where he delivers the plans for a superweapon to his Sith master, Darth Sidious. Darth Sidious, the same Sith Lord from the first film, confirms that everything is going according to plan. The Jedi announce that this is the beginning of the Clone Wars, and that they will be battling the Separatists for a long time to come. Anakin gets a robotic arm, and secretly marries Padme on Naboo, ending the film. The film opens with the Galactic Republic and the Separatists still at war, with Obi-Wan and Anakin fighting in a space battle above the planet of Coruscant, in a mission to rescue the kidnapped Supreme Chancellor Palpatine. Palpatine is being held by the Separatist commander General Grievous. The Jedi battle the Sith Count Dooku, and the fight ends with Anakin killing Dooku upon Palpatine's command. General Grievous flees the nearly destroyed ship, which the Jedi crash land on Coruscant. Anakin is then reunited with his wife Padme, who reveals she is pregnant. Anakin begins to have premonitions about her dying in childbirth, which begins to consume him. Palpatine appoints Anakin to be on the Jedi Council, which is not a normal thing to do, because Palpatine wants Anakin to represent him on the Council. The Council is not happy about this, and the Council urges Anakin to monitor Palpatine, as they feel something is not right about him. Anakin starts to become unsure about the Jedi's faith, and that is further pushed as Palpatine tells Anakin about the powers of the dark side, even in preventing death. Eventually, Palpatine reveals himself as the Sith Lord Darth Sidious, showing that he has been orchestrating the events of the past films, and actually directing both sides of the war, being Supreme Chancellor Palpatine, the head of the Galactic Republic on one side, as well as Darth Sidious, the secret head of the Separatists, on the other side. Anakin reports this to the Jedi Council, and Mace Windu, one of the most powerful Jedi, begins to battle Palpatine. Palpatine's Force lightning is backfired upon himself, and he becomes horribly disfigured, and is just about to be defeated by Mace Windu. Palpatine, though, convinces Anakin that he knows a secret way to save Padme from dying in childbirth, and Anakin kills Mace Windu. Anakin pledges himself to Palpatine, and Palpatine dubs Anakin now as Darth Vader. Palpatine issues Order 66 to the clone troopers, a secret order to kill all the Jedi, and sends Anakin, now Darth Vader, to the Jedi Temple to kill all of the Jedi there, including very young children Jedis. Obi-Wan and Yoda survive the attack, however, but all other Jedis are killed. Vader is sent now to kill the remaining leaders of the Separatist Union on the volcanic planet of Mustafar, while Palpatine announces to the Senate that the government will now be reformed into the Galactic Empire, declaring himself Emperor. Yoda and Obi-Wan discover what Anakin did at the Jedi Temple and are horrified and tell Padme what Anakin did. Padme leaves for Mustafar to confront Anakin, and Obi-Wan hides aboard the craft. Padme arrives to meet Anakin, and Obi-Wan reveals himself. Anakin believes that Padme has betrayed him, so he begins to force choke her. Obi-Wan and Anakin fight, and Anakin is severely maimed and defeated. Anakin becomes significantly burned by a volcanic river, and Obi-Wan leaves with Padme. Padme gives birth to two twins, Luke and Leia, and dies shortly after. Obi-Wan and Yoda decide to hide the twins from the Empire, separating them. Senator Bail Organa adopts Leia and takes her to the planet of Alderaan. They send Luke to live with his step-uncle Owen Lars back on the planet of Tatooine that we saw in the second film, where Obi-Wan will watch over Luke. Palpatine recovers Anakin, and his body is repaired with a cybernetic suit. Palpatine informs Vader of Padme's death, which he is devastated by. As the film concludes, we see the Empire is overseeing the construction of the superweapon discussed in the second film, the Death Star. Set 30 years after the Return of the Jedi, we see a new regime named the First Order that has replaced the Empire, and that wants to eliminate the New Republic. The Resistance, which is supported by the New Republic and led by General Leia Organa, opposes the First Order. They also continue to search for Leia's brother, Luke Skywalker, who hasn't been seen for several years. On the planet Jakku, Resistance pilot Poe obtains a map of Luke's location. Poe gives the map to his droid, BB-8, just before he is captured by stormtroopers led by Kylo Ren. BB-8 escapes with the map and meets a scavenger named Rey. Kylo tortures Poe and learns of the map's location. A stormtrooper named Finn aboard the same ship decides to defect, breaks Poe free, stealing a TIE fighter and crash landing it back on Jakku. Finn survives, though it seems as though that Poe did not make it. Finn encounters Rey and BB-8, but they are attacked by the First Order, and the three flee into an old junker ship, which turns out to be the Millennium Falcon, the ship of Han Solo. They encounter a much larger ship, which coincidentally is being piloted by Han Solo and Chewbacca. Han's ship is boarded by some gang members looking to collect their debts, and Han, Chewbacca, Rey, Finn, and BB-8 all escape on the Falcon. The gang informs the First Order that the BB-8 droid they're looking for is aboard the Millennium Falcon. The Falcon crew determines that BB-8's map is incomplete, and Han explains that Luke was trying to rebuild the Jedi Order, but exiled himself after one of his apprentices, Kylo Ren, turned to the dark side and destroyed the temple, and slaughtered all the other apprentices. They travel to the planet Takodana and meet with a wise woman named Maz, who offers to get the BB-8 to the Resistance. Rey is drawn to a vault in the lower level and finds the lightsaber that once belonged to both Luke and his father, Anakin Skywalker. She has disturbing visions and flees into the woods. Maz decides to give Finn the lightsaber for safekeeping. We also see the First Order Starkiller Base, a planet converted into a superweapon, which is capable of destroying multiple planets at once using energy drained from stars, which is commanded by General Hux. We also see Kylo Ren's master, the leader of the First Order, Supreme Leader Snoke. Little is known about him, however. Snoke questions Kylo's ability to deal with his emotions, especially related to his father, who is Han Solo. Kylo's true name is Ben Solo, with his mother being Leia. The First Order then leads an attack on Takodana once again to get the map from BB-8. The Falcon crew are saved by Resistance fighters, led by Poe, who actually did not die earlier in the crash. Leia arrives along with C-3PO, who unite with Han Solo and Chewbacca. Rey, however, is captured by Kylo, and she is brought to the Starkiller base. He tries to interrogate her using the Force, but Rey is able to resist him, and Rey can actually read his mind, finding Kylo's insecurities. Rey also later uses the Force to trick a guard in order to escape. At the Resistance base, BB-8 finds R2-D2, who has remained inactive since Luke's disappearance. The Starkiller base prepares to fire on the Resistance base, while the Resistance comes up with a plan to destroy the superweapon. Leia begs Han to return with their son alive. Using the Falcon, Han, Chewbacca, and Finn infiltrate the facility and find Rey and plant explosives. Han confronts his son, calling him by his given name of Ben, and begs him to abandon the dark side. Kylo, however, refuses and kills his father. Chewbacca shoots Kylo and injures him, and sets off explosives, allowing the Resistance to destroy the Starkiller base. A lightsaber battle breaks out between the injured Kylo and Finn, but Finn is badly wounded. Rey takes up the lightsaber and is able to defeat Kylo, but they are separated when the superweapon planet begins to fall apart. Snoke orders Kylo to return to him to complete his training. Rey, Chewbacca, and Finn escape as the superweapon converts into a new star due to the energy it absorbed. Back at the Resistance base, they celebrate their victory, as well as mourn the death of Han. R2-D2 awakens and is able to reveal the rest of the map, allowing Rey to travel to Ahch-To, an oceanic planet. There she finds Luke and presents him with his lightsaber as the film ends. Research scientist Galen Erso and his family are hiding on the planet Lam-Mu. Imperial weapons developer Orson Krennic arrives to press him into completing the Death Star, a space station-based superweapon capable of destroying planets. Galen's wife Lyra is killed, but their daughter Jyn escapes and is taken safely by rebel extremist Saw Gerrera. 15 years later, cargo pilot Bodhi Rook defects from the Empire, taking a holographic message recorded by Galen to Gerrera on the desert moon Jeddah. Rebel intelligence officer Cassian Andor frees Jyn from the Imperial labor camp before bringing her to the rebel leader Mon Mothma, who convinces her to find and rescue Galen so that the Alliance can learn more about the Death Star. However, Cassian is covertly ordered to kill Galen rather than extract him. Jyn, Cassian, and a reprogrammed droid, K2SO, travel to Jeddah, where the Empire is removing kyber crystals to power the Death Star, and Gerrera and his group are fighting back. With the aid of Chirrut Imwe and Baze Malbus, Jyn makes contact with Gerrera, who has been holding Rook captive. Gerrera shows her the message, in which Galen reveals that he has built an intentional vulnerability in the Death Star, and directs them to retrieve the schematics from an Imperial databank on the planet Scarif. On the Death Star, Krennic orders a low-powered test shot, which destroys Jedha's capital. Jyn and her group take Rook and flee, but Guerrera remains to die with the city. Grand Moff Tarkin congratulates Krennic, but uses Rook's defection and security leak as a pretext to take control of the project. Rook leads the group to Galen's Imperial Research Facility on the planet Yadu, where Cassian chooses to not kill Galen. Rebel bombers attack the facility, and Galen dies in his daughter's arms before she escapes with the group. Krennic is summoned by Darth Vader to answer for the attack on Yadu. Krennic seeks Vader's support for an audience with the Emperor, but Vader instead orders him to ensure that no further breaches occur. Jyn proposes a plan to steal the Death Star schematics using the Rebel fleet, but fails to get approval from the Alliance Council, who feel victory against the Empire is now impossible. Frustrated with their inaction, Jyn's group lead a small squad of Rebel volunteers to raid the databanks themselves. Arriving at Scarif on the stolen Imperial ship, dubbed Rogue One, Jyn and Cassian enter the base with K2SO, while the other rebels attack the resident Imperial garrison as a distraction. The Rebel fleet learns about the raid from an intercepted communication, and they deploy support. K2SO sacrifices himself so Jyn and Cassian can retrieve the data. Chirrut is killed after activating the Master Switch to allow communications with the Rebel fleet, and Malbus dies shortly afterwards. Rook is also killed by a grenade after informing the Rebel fleet that it must deactivate the shields surrounding the planet in order to allow the transmission of the schematic. Jyn and Cassian obtain the schematics, but they are ambushed by Krennic, who is eventually shot by Cassian. Jyn transmits the schematics to the Rebel command ship. However, the Death Star enters the orbit above Scarif, where Tarkin uses another low-powered shot to destroy the compromised base, killing Krennic, Cassian, and Jyn. The Rebel fleet prepares for jump into hyperspace, but many of the fleet's ships are intercepted by Vader's flagship. Vader boards the Rebel command ship and attempts to regain the schematics, killing many, but a small starship escapes with the schematics on board. Aboard the fleeing ship, Princess Leia declares that the schematics will provide hope for the rebellion, leading directly into Episode 4, A New Hope. Film picks up after Episode 7, with the destruction of the Starkiller base. General Leia leads the Resistance fleet, while the First Order pursues. Poe Dameron leads a counterattack, but a lot of lives are lost, and the Resistance escapes into hyperspace. However, they find that the First Order is successfully able to track them. Kylo Ren and other TIE fighters attack Leia's ship, and Leia nearly dies, but uses the Force to bring herself back to safety. Leia is left incapacitated, and Vice Admiral Holdo takes control of the fleet. Feeling Holdo's strategy is too passive, Poe, Finn, BB-8, and a mechanic named Rose embark on a secret mission to disable the First Order's tracking device. Meanwhile, Rey arrives on the planet Ahch-To with Chewbacca and R2-D2 aboard the Millennium Falcon, reuniting with Luke Skywalker. Skywalker has become disillusioned with the Jedi way after his failed trainings with Kylo Ren. He refuses to help Rey at first, but eventually gives in. While on the island, Rey has visions in where she can communicate with Kylo Ren. Through her visions and talking to Luke, it is revealed that Luke nearly killed Kylo in his sleep because of the darkness that was growing within him, but changed his mind, only for Kylo to awaken and then destroy the Jedi Order. Rey becomes convinced that Kylo can be redeemed, and leaves without Luke. Yoda appears to Luke telling him that Rey has all that she needs to learn, and encourages Luke to learn from his failures. Finn, Rose, and BB-8 travel to the Canto Bight Casino to meet up with a hacker named DJ. The four are able to infiltrate Snoke's ship, but are captured by Captain Phasma. At the same time, Rey lands aboard Snoke's ship to confront Kylo. She is brought before Snoke, who reveals that he is behind the visions that Rey and Kylo have been having, which allowed them to communicate, as a plan to destroy Luke. Kylo instead turns and kills Snoke, and Rey and Kylo defeat the guards. Rey wants Kylo to turn to the light side, but Kylo invites Rey to rule the galaxy with him. She refuses, and they end up splitting Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber in half. Meanwhile, back with the ships, Holdo reveals her plan is to discreetly evacuate the remaining Resistance members using small transport ships. Poe, believing that this is a cowardly action, leads a mutiny. Leia wakes up and knocks Poe out, allowing the evacuation to begin. Holdo stays aboard the ship to mislead the First Order while the others escape the ship to a small base on Crate. However, the hacker DJ betrays the group and reveals the Resistance plan to the First Order, and they begin to attack the transport ships. Holdo then sacrifices herself by ramming the Resistance ship into Snoke's ship at light speed. In the chaos, Rey escapes, Kylo declares himself the new Supreme Leader, BB-8 frees Finn and Rose, and they all together defeat Phasma and escape to Crate. The First Order arrives on Crate to wipe out the few remaining Resistance members, primarily using a large cannon and TIE fighters. Rey and Chewbacca draw the fire from the TIE fighters, while Finn attempts a suicide run against the cannon, but is stopped by Rose as the cannon destroys the one blast door protecting the Resistance. Luke Skywalker emerges from the destroyed door, and after having every gun fired at Luke and he still stands, a lightsaber battle breaks out between him and Kylo. Luke is struck, but there is no effect, only for Kylo to realize that he has been fighting a force projection, and Luke is actually back on the planet Ahch-To. This distraction gave the Resistance members enough time to escape out a back passage and board the Millennium Falcon. Luke, exhausted from the massive amount of force use, becomes one with the Force and dies. Rey and Leia sense the death, and Leia tells the rebels that the Resistance has all they need to rise again. As the film concludes, we see one of the children at Canto Bight using the Force gazing into space, possibly meaning he is a future member of the Resistance.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Movie Spoiler Alerts. Today we're talking about the 2018 film, Solo, a Star Wars story. So let's get started. The film opens with young Han Solo and his love interest Qi'ra escaping a local gang. They bribe an Imperial officer with some stolen coaxium, a powerful hyperspace fuel, to get off the planet, but Qi'ra is captured. Han vows to return for her and joins the Imperial Navy. When asked what his last name is, he responds that he has no family, so he is given the last name of Solo. 3 years later, Solo encounters a group of criminals posing as Imperial soldiers led by Tobias Beckett. Han tries to join them, but ends up getting arrested for desertion and thrown into a pit to be fed to a Wookiee named Chewbacca. Han, who can understand Chewbacca, works with the Wookiee to escape. Beckett rescues the pair, wanting to use them to help steal a shipment of coaxium. The heist is interrupted by a group of pirates called the Cloud Riders, led by Enfys Nest, which causes 2 members of Beckett's crew to die, including his wife, and the coaxium is destroyed. Beckett reveals he was ordered to steal the shipment for Dryden Voss, a member of the Crimson Dawn Syndicate, and they still owe on that debt. The gang travels to Voss's ship, where Han finds Qi'ra, who now is Voss's right-hand woman. Han suggests they steal the unrefined coaxium from the mines on Kessel. Qi'ra joins the gang and leads them to Lando Calrissian, a smuggler who she hopes will lend them his ship, the Millennium Falcon. Han challenges Lando to a game, and the winner takes Lando's ship. Lando cheats and wins, but agrees to join in the mission in exchange for some of the profits. At the mines, Lando's droid co-pilot L3 starts a revolt from all the droids that work in the mine. Chewbacca is able to free a group of Wookiees that are forced to work in the mines. They are able to steal the coaxium, but Lando is wounded, and L3 is fatally damaged. L3 is wired into the ship, and Han is able to navigate through the Kessel Run in 12 parsecs to avoid the Imperial blockade. The Falcon arrives at the planet Saravine to process the unrefined coaxium. Enfys and the Cloud Riders arrive, and Lando flees in the Falcon. Enfys explains that she and her crew are not pirates, but rebels fighting against the Empire. Han tries to trick Voss in order to help the rebels, but Voss reveals that Beckett told him everything. Voss sends his guards to kill the Cloud Riders, but the guards are defeated, and Voss is defenseless. Han tries to take the coaxium, but Beckett betrays Voss and takes the coaxium with Chewbacca as a hostage. Qi'ra kills Voss and then sends Han after Beckett. Instead of joining Han, Qi'ra takes the opportunity to contact the leader of the Crimson Dawn, Darth Maul, and take Voss's position. She blames the failure on Beckett and does not mention Han in order to protect him. Maul says that he wants to meet with Qi'ra. Han confronts Beckett and shoots him first. Qi'ra leaves with Voss's ship, and Han turns the coaxium over to the rebels, who offer to have Han join them, which he declines. Han and Chewbacca locate Lando and challenge him to a rematch, again wagering the Falcon. Han wins this time, also by cheating, and Han and Chewie both leave for Tatooine to begin working for Jabba the Hutt as the film ends.
So that was the spoilers for all the Star Wars movies leading up to Episode 9. If you have another film you'd like to see us spoil, please let us know in the comments below. Check out Movie Spoiler Alerts on Instagram, and remember to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.